It's Christmas Eve, 1945, in a quiet West Virginia town. The Sodder family is nestled in their home, anticipating a joyful holiday. But by morning, 5 of their children would vanish in a fire that still haunts the town to this day. What happened to the Sodder children? This is a mystery that remains unsolved, and it begins with a burning question. Did they really die in that fire? The Sodder family, George, Jenny, and their 9 children, were asleep on Christmas Eve when a fire broke out. George and Jenny managed to escape with 4 of their children, but the remaining 5, Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jenny, and Betty, were never seen again. The official cause? A faulty electrical wire. But the questions began almost immediately. As the fire raged, George tried to save his children, but something strange happened. The ladder he always kept nearby was missing. His truck, which he planned to use to reach the second-floor window, mysteriously wouldn't start. By morning, the house was reduced to ashes. But where were the children's remains? After the fire, investigators expected to find bones, but there was nothing. No remains, no ashes, no evidence that the children had died in the blaze. This was odd because even in fires of extreme heat, bones typically survive. The local fire chief suggested that the fire had burned too hot, but experts later questioned this conclusion. The Sodder family was left with more questions than answers. Jenny couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. She began conducting her own experiments, burning animal bones in her stove to see if they would be completely destroyed. They weren't. So, what happened to her children? In the months following the fire, strange things started happening. A telephone repairman told the Sodders that their phone line had been cut, not burned. A witness came forward, claiming to have seen the missing children in a car, driving away from the house the night of the fire. And then there was the photograph. Years later, Jenny received an anonymous letter containing a photograph of a young man who resembled her son, Louis. On the back was a cryptic message: Louis Sodder, I love brother Frankie. Illo boys. A 901, 32 or 35. Was this Louis? Was he alive? Over the years, theories began to swirl. Some believed the children had been kidnapped by the mafia as retribution for George's outspoken criticism of Mussolini and the Italian government. Others thought they were sold into an adoption ring. The Sodders erected a billboard offering a reward for information, and the case stayed in the public eye for decades. But despite the attention, no credible leads ever materialized. The authorities closed the case, concluding that the children had perished in the fire. Yet, the Sodder family never believed it, until the day they died. George and Jenny continued to search for their lost children, clinging to the hope that they were still alive somewhere. Nearly 80 years later, the fate of the Sodder children remains a mystery. Were they truly lost in the fire, or did something far more sinister happen that night? The questions remain unanswered, and the Sodder family's search for the truth continues to haunt those who hear their story. Some mysteries are never meant to be solved,